I think we're live now. Hey guys, we've got a great guest with us, Dan Harary. We're going to talk about disclosure. You should be playing the intro, and we'll get started momentarily. Is it playing the intro? Yeah.
That's a hell of an intro there, Rob.
It played twice. I don't know why it does that. It always does that. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I'm really excited to have my guest on today. He's been working in Hollywood for years. His name is Dan Harary. And what's going on with this? Is that okay? I'm honored to have him. He's a 4-time UFO experiencer, veteran Hollywood publicist, author of 5 books, and creator of the Hollywood Disclosure Lines. Dan has over 40 years in the entertainment industry, repping legends like Jay Leno, handling the PR for the Playboy Channel, Columbia Pictures, and working with Oscar and Emmy writers while running the boutique for Asbury PR Agency in Beverly Hills. But what you may not know about Dan is he's also deeply involved in UFO research and disclosure efforts in Hollywood, blending the industry connections with passion for uncovering the truth. He's authored books like Flirting with Fame, After They Came, Carrots, My Paranormal Life, and 5, sharing both his Hollywood journey and his experiences with the unexplained. Today, we'll be diving into his UFO experiences and what they taught him, why he founded the Hollywood Disclosure Lines, how the Hollywood shapes the narrative around UFOs and ET contact, and how we can move forward with real disclosure in our lifetime. And the books you would be interested in that Dan has are probably My Paranormal Life, which we'll talk about tonight, and his book After They Came, which is a UFO book. And with all that said, I'd like to give him a big warm welcome back to the show. Dan, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Rob. Thanks very much. I've been very, very busy, and I'm enjoying the summer break a little bit. It's a little slower for me right now, but as you mentioned, for Contact in the Desert, that was actually, it was a month ago. I can't believe it was a month ago. I am the head of public relations for Contact in the Desert. That happened at the tail end of May. That in the very first few days of June, we had 2,300 people there, which is the most people they've had there since COVID. So that was good, really, really good turnout. And I had a chance to bond a little bit with Chris Bledsoe. Chris Bledsoe did a CE5 event one night there. We had about 300 people there, but unfortunately it was an overcast night. There were some lights in the sky that he was inviting. He says he was inviting ETs to visit us, and there were some lights here and there in the sky, but the skies were very, very cloudy that night. So I can't say that we saw UFOs there, really. The year before at Contact, the last night, we did a CE5, and a remarkable UFO showed up that night. That was 2024. Ross Coulthart was at Contact this year. Probably most of your viewers know Ross Coulthart from News Nation. He's been breaking all kinds of whistleblower news the last few years. He broke the David Grush story on News Nation. He's an Australian journalist, nicest guy on the planet. I had a chance to bond with Ross for a few minutes. Very sweet guy, Ross Coulthart. There was a woman at Contact named Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell. Some of you may have heard of, if you've heard of the telepathy tapes.
Yeah.
She's essentially proven that telepathy is a real phenomenon. She has been studying highly autistic, very young children who are nonverbal, but they have the ability to have telepathy usually with their mothers. And she did a live demonstration of a young child and his mother having telepathy. And so why is that important in ufology? It's because so many experiencers, and I'll include myself in that group, many UFO and ET experiencers have reported, Rob, you know this, they've reported telepathic communication with entities. I had something with a craft in 2008. I saw a remarkable UFO at the ECETI Ranch in Washington State. It was a big, huge black craft that hovered over about 200 of us. And a green light came on underneath this craft, and this green light was blinking on and off above our heads for about a minute, like Morse code, beautiful emerald green light. And the telepathic messaging I got from that craft in my heart was, hello, we're here, we love you, We love mankind. Don't be afraid. Everything's cool. Be kind to one another. Be kind to planet Earth. And we'll see you another time. It was a remarkable event. So when people talk about having telepathy with ETs or with craft, I had a moment like that myself in 2008. So anyway, Contact in the Desert was terrific, and I'm looking forward to next year.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is really amazing. And did you see Linda Moulton Howe and Whitley Strieber as well?
I know Linda. I know Whitley. I didn't see Linda. This time. However, I know Linda, and when we get to it, we can talk about. I produced a new documentary that Linda is in. She's in my documentary called Inside Hollywood. We could talk about that in a few minutes. But I didn't see Linda, but she was there. She had injured her leg, Rob, so I heard she was on crutches. Oh, no, wow. You know what? I saw one of her presentations. I did see one of her presentations. It was really remarkable about some of the whistleblowers, some of the information whistleblowers have told her since like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But I didn't see her one-to-one. I saw Whitley a number of times in the press room. I ran the press room at Contact, and quite a few different podcasters were interviewing Whitley Strieber. So I know Whitley, nice guy. He's a very serious man. Whitley's a very serious man, but a brilliant and really cool. And, of course, Richard Dolan and Nick Pope and Steve Bassett, these are like actual friends of mine. I'm very blessed to have incredible friends. So if anyone's never been to Contact in the Desert and you're really into ufology, you should really try to go next year.
Yeah, I'd love to interview some of those people. I'd love to get Chris on my show or Whitley, for sure. That's amazing. So so let's talk about your documentary. We haven't talked about that before. What's going on with that?
Okay. All right. Well, it's brand new, Robin. Well, we haven't talked about it before. So as you know, I'll do a little recap. And in fact, I wore my shirt for you. Wait, I'll move this microphone here. So you see my shirt, Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Can everybody see that?
That's cool. Yeah.
Okay. These shirts just came out. So Rob, you know this because we've talked about it. 2 years ago, my book After They Came was published, and I met Stephen Bassett. Yeah, you all know who Stephen Bassett is. He was the very first disclosure lobbyist activist in Washington, D.C. in 1996. He registered as a lobbyist in Washington to end the truth embargo. Okay. So 2 years ago, Steve Bassett and I became very, very good friends. And we put our heads together. And together, he and I created the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. So for all the people that are writing in right now, and hello to all you over there in the live comments, go to hollywooddisclosurealliance.org. We are a nonprofit 501c3 networking group. It was my idea. Stephen and I gave birth to it, but it really was my idea. We just announced our 200th member. In fact, we have about 215 members, really. Half of our members are UAP and ET experiencers, researchers, and or disclosure advocates like Steve Bassett. And the other half, Rob, what makes us really unique, I think, is our connection with Hollywood writers, producers, directors, and performers. We have a lot of documentary filmmakers are members. We have Shirley MacLaine, movie star. Thomas Jane is a movie star. Dee Wallace is a movie star. These are some of our members. So if you go there, we have a join button. In fact, Rob, you should. Are you a member, Rob? I don't remember.
I don't think I am. I can be. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Rob, all you need to do, man, is just send me your bio and your photo. I'll put you up there.
Okay.
But
great.
We network in the following ways. Well, if you're on the website, you have access to any other member. So, and there's a lot. I mean, there's Whitley, there's Travis Walton, there's Richard Dolan, and Nick Pope, and Paul Hynek, and Kathleen Martin. I mean, we just have so many. Ron James, Ron Janix, who owns Contact in the Desert. So, if you're on the website, it's sort of a badge of honor, I guess, because a lot of people are very proud to be members. We have a live 24-hour, 7-day-a-week chat room. It's called a Slack, SLACK chat room. A lot of our members talk to each other there. We go to the big events like Conscious Life Expo and Contact in the Desert, and maybe some smaller ones when we can. And we have a booth there. But the big thing we do, and unfortunately it's only in LA, but every quarter we have a live event in LA at a little theater in the San Fernando Valley. We usually have about 100 people come, and we've presented the making of Project Blue Book, the TV series. We did a session about psionics. Thomas Jane, the movie star, did a lecture called A Human's Guide to Visiting Aliens. Ron James is going to do one in the fall on his new movie called Accidental Truth Next, his documentary. So our members who live in California, or SoCal specifically, they get a lot of cool things that they can attend. But anyone who's listening or watching, HollywoodDisclosureLines.org, click the join button. You'll see how to join. Now, I wanted to do a documentary film about our group. The nickname for our group is called the HDA, Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. We call it the HDA. So in February this year, I had a booth at Conscious Life Expo in LA, and there were like 10,000 people, man. There were a lot of people at this thing. And one of our HDA members is a talented documentary filmmaker named Jeremy Norrie, no relation to George Norrie. He and I went out and about during that event, and I call it guerrilla filmmaking. And we interviewed Danny Sheehan and Steve Bassett and Linda Moulton Howe and Britt Elders, who's been studying the Billy Meyer case for 100 years. And
I've had Britt on my show. Yeah, she's interesting for sure.
I love Britt. She's such a lovely person. She really is great. We interviewed Ron James from MUFON, Ron Janix from Contact in the Desert. Thomas Jane, the movie star, is in it. So and it just came out a few weeks ago. It's online, and the film is called Inside Hollywood: Aliens, UFOs, and the Quest for Disclosure. It can be seen. It's on YouTube, and it can be seen but you have to go to J.Horton, HORTON Films. J.Horton Films on YouTube. He is the owner of the film. I produced it, but he actually owns it. And you can see it there for free. We're trying to sell it to Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, but it's an hour long, and it presents a lot of heavyweight people. Jimmy Church is in there, talking about how Hollywood has historically presented UAPs and ETs to the world. And in our opinion, from our group, how can Hollywood do a better job helping to move disclosure forward? So that's what that film is, the documentary.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. Yeah. I have questions about like disclosure. Like, do you feel like you're able to, you're making, it seems like you're making progress in Hollywood, because one of the questions I had for you is, do you feel like that, like Hollywood muddies the waters when it comes to disclosure? Or do you feel like it plays a role of an important role in disclosure? It seems like if you feel like it plays an important role, but it has to be done the right way, right?
That's okay. That's very well said, Rob. What you said was very well said. Historically, Hollywood, since the like early 50s, you know, in the early, and I'm older than you, man. I just turned 69. So I was born in 1956. But in the early 50s, there were a lot of the Earth versus flying saucers, these classic, The Day the Earth Stood Still, these classic black and white films with flying saucers, invading the United States and the world. Historically, Hollywood has presented the phenomenon as aliens coming to Earth. My joke is to kill us or to eat us, right? Most of the films, Independence Day, War of the Worlds, these big blockbuster films, the aliens are coming to kill us and eat us, and it's all battles and horror, and millions of people die, and they always blow up the White House and the Empire State Building, right? So that's the big picture. Along the way, a few films have really stood out that were on the benevolent side of things, most specifically our friend Steven Spielberg with Close Encounters and E.T. Those films present benevolent aliens. ET's not killing anybody. He's a botanist. He's studying little plants and flowers. There have been other films like Arrival, Contact, Starman. There are a few films here and there in the history of Hollywood that have been gently, and then you can go to TV. You know, I don't know if you remember My Favorite Martian. When I was a kid, that was a TV show.
I remember that. That was a great show. Yeah.
It was a black and white show, man. I was probably 8, 9, and 10 when that was on. But he was a benevolent alien, that guy.
I was just wanted to tell you, I was born in the 80s, so I saw all the reruns. Like I would watch like Nick at Night and stuff like that, where they would have all the reruns of those shows. You know, that was amazing.
And I'll tell you, TV I'd say TV in the 60s has never been replicated. You know, it's never been. I mean, look at the Ed Sullivan Show. There's, you know, and then Johnny Carson, but then after that, there's nothing. Anyway, so what my group is trying to do is tell Hollywood, hey, a lot of people have had incredible real life experiences. I know 3 women that have been abducted, impregnated, and had their hybrid baby fetuses removed. And then years later, they were introduced to their hybrid children on a spaceship. I have a friend who's friends with Pleiadians from the Pleiades, literally friends with Pleiadians for 50, 60 years. He meets with them every few years. They come down to talk to him. Britt Elder studied Billy Meyer for decades. Billy Meyer is a contactee from Pleiadians. There are so many stories that could be told through Hollywood and the global entertainment industry that are not, Rob, that are not aliens coming to kill us and eat us. You know, some are benevolent, some are benign. There are apparently evil races, but so many stories that could be told have not yet been told. So that's the goal I have with my HDA group. Cocoon, Cocoon's another one, Anchor Haven. Yeah, Cocoon, right.
Yeah. Oh, let me take this banner down. This banner was from yesterday's show. I didn't even see this was up. Yeah, this is hold on, let me okay, that's but yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, Cocoon was another great movie. I remember that. Yeah, like, you know, one thing I've been talking about lately with my guests, I think I talked about this with Ella when Ella was on the other day, was like the brilliance of Steven Spielberg. You know, like I mean, like, you know, some people say he was into some crazy shit, but like, you know, I found out, you know, Spielberg has a series from 2002 called Taken, and it's all about alien abduction. So what what did he know in 2002? I mean, that's when Art Bell was doing stuff, and there was, you know, podcasts didn't even exist. You know what I mean? So like the fact that he had an alien abduction show that early, I've been watching it. It's pretty good. They have the whole series for free on YouTube. You can watch it. Like
that's right. That's exactly right.
And then also someone mentioned in 2008, he came out with the movie with Shia LaBeouf and Indiana Jones, like one of the last installments of Indiana Jones, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where he's talking about crystal skulls, which is pretty big in our community now. And then I think he also has UFOs in that. And then, you know, everybody knows that he also came out with E.T. and he came out with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like way before, you know, any of this stuff was even being talked about, you know. So he fascinates me what he knew and how he knew it, you know. He had to have been following the phenomena for a long time or something, you know. I don't know. Okay.
So, well, that's a great topic and a great subject. Steven Spielberg, his first UFO film was Close Encounters. That was 1977. Rob, you made a good point there. And in his film, his science advisor was Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who is the father of Paul Hynek.
Project Blue Book.
Right. Paul Hynek's a very close friend of mine. J. Allen Hynek was the science advisor to the Air Force for Project Blue Book. So Spielberg, from what I've read about Spielberg, I've looked into this. Spielberg, when he was little, he and his father used to go out at night, lay on a blanket on the grass and look up at the stars. And one time his dad took him to see a meteor shower. They knew there was going to be a meteor shower one night. This is probably in the 50s. Steven's 8 years older than me. Probably was in the 50s. So Stevens and his father see all these shooting stars and meteorites, you know, flying around the sky. And he was so fascinated as a young child by what's going on in the sky. I read that recently. Okay, so now he comes to Close Encounters. people have said that Stephen was given some inside information from some people in the government or the military, whoever controls, let's call it the truth embargo. The truth embargo is who's ever in charge of the fact of not telling us that aliens and UFOs are real ever since the Roswell crash in July 1947. There's a group, and it's not President Trump or any president, and it's not Congress. It's a group. No one really knows who they are. It's referred to as the deep state. I refer to them as the great-grandsons of the Majestic 12 from 1947. Whoever is in charge of keeping that secret from us, apparently some of them want to drip little crumbs, I call it little crumbs of information, to the world, just here and there, just enough to keep us tortured. So they told Stephen for when he did Close Encounters, I've been told by several different people that some of the events in Close Encounters happened in real life to some real people.
Wow.
So between some real life events that happened and the fact that Stephen had J. Allen Hynek on his film set, right, advising him, Stephen's ahead of the pack. Now we go to E.T. Well, of course, E.T. was a wonderful little creature, benevolent and kind and all that. Rob, it's funny you mentioned Taken because I watched Taken last fall on YouTube. I saw it when it first came out, and then I saw it again. Stephen, and then some of your writers here on the comments. No, Stephen's next film, it comes out next summer. It's called Disclosure.
Yeah.
Spielberg's next film is called Disclosure. It stars Emily Blunt. It filmed in New Jersey. It wrapped production recently. Nobody knows what the story is. It's not been revealed. But when my partner, Steve Bassett, I had lunch with him that day when we heard that Spielberg's new film was called Disclosure. My friend Steve Bassett was like, Dan, we did it. We did it. Spielberg's next film is Disclosure. We did it. He was so excited.
I have to tell you, I love Steve Bassett. I've had him on my show a couple of times, and I interviewed him with my friend Nicole, and he always has great information. He's so passionate about disclosure. You know what I mean? He really wants disclosure. And for the people that don't know who we're talking about, Steve Bassett has been lobbying on Capitol Hill, like literally like living in the DC area, going to Congress to try to get disclosure. He's been trying to make moves behind the scenes, about disclosure. And I think that's why Dan put him on the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. And, he's a key asset to this, right? Would you say? And I didn't mean to switch the subject.
Yeah, no. It's a related subject. No, Stephen Bassett, like I said earlier, he was the first person in the history of the world to go to Washington in 1996 and register as a lobbyist, not for the tobacco industry or big oil or African Americans or gays, anything like that. He lobbied to end the truth embargo about ETs and UFOs. He created that. He was the first person of his kind to do that. Now, Stephen Greer started that a few years before Stephen Bassett. Steve Bassett and I call it the three Stevens: Stephen Greer, Stephen Bassett, and Steven Spielberg. Those are the three big Stevens in Disclosure. Those are the three big ones, really, all three Stevens. So when I met Stephen and we became friends, he and I came up with the idea for HDA, but he said, yeah, let's do it. And then he invited Richard Dolan and Nick Pope and Paul Hynek and all his colleagues, so that's how we built it. Stephen and I built HDA together. But getting back to Spielberg, he seems to be the Hollywood creator who has some connections into, call it the Pentagon or the DOD or the Majestic 12 people, whoever are running the secrets about UFOs and ETs. Stephen seems to have some connection there because he's been leading the pack since Close Encounters in 1977. Now, I could tell you something very interesting, and this goes to my next thing that I'd like to discuss with you. In March, I launched a new business called thewowsignal.news. Thewowsignal.news. Rob, do you know what the Wow Signal was?
No.
Really? Okay. All right. In August 1977, an astronomer at Ohio State University named Jerry Ehman, E-H-M-A-N, August 77, he had a big, huge telescope looking in the sky. He got a 72-second anomalous signal from outer space. It printed out on his computer as a number of letters and numerals. He circled it with a red pen, and he wrote "wow!" exclamation point with a red pen on this printout. If you Google the wow signal, you'll see what I'm talking about. The wow signal was an anomalous signal from outer space, August 77. I launched the wow signal news service in March. My news service is for ufologists and experiencers around the world. If you go there, you can input your stories, your articles, your guest opinions, your press releases, your photos. You can input them there to a global audience. So again, it's called thewowsignal.news. Go there. Here's what's interesting, Rob. I launched the Wow Signal website in March. Oh, the week after I launched it, I got an email from a guy in Greece. He has a group in Greece called the Contact Project. He wrote and said, Dan, it's so cool you have the Wow Signal news website. Did you know that the Wow Signal was a musical melody? And I said, what? Really? So this guy's a musician, Rob. He set the original Wow Signal to music. If you go to my website, thewowsignal.news, there's a section called About Us. In there, you can hear this. It's a little tune. Now, Rob, here's where I'm going with this. That was August 77 when the real life Wow Signal happened. Okay? Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out in December 77, 5 months later. And we all know, da, 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 da. We all know that tune from Close Encounters. It was a musical melody the aliens used to communicate with Earthlings in the movie. The real Wow Signal happened 5 months earlier. So I wrote an article called, What Did Steven Spielberg Know About the Wow Signal? And my theory is that perhaps someone told him that the Wow Signal that came down was a musical melody from outer space. So I think, to sum it up, Spielberg is well on top of whatever is really happening. If anyone knows, he does.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. And then what I want to talk about next was you released the audio for your book after they came, but like some of the people in the audience might have not saw podcasts you and I have done before. Did you want to tell them a little bit about after they came and then the release of the audio from it?
Sure. Thank you. That's very sweet. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Here's how I got into ufology, and I'll do the abbreviated version because this is a very long story. But in March 1970, when I was 13 years old, I was in my father's car. He picked me up after school one day in New Jersey, where I grew up, and he drove me home. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a sunny day. I'm in my father's car, sunny day, March 1970. I'm 13 years old. Above my father's car was a huge silver V, a letter V like Victor, huge craft just hovering above my father's car. And I saw it through the windshield. So I said, Dad, stop the car. Dad, stop the car. There's a UFO. He stopped the car. My dad and I got out of the car. We looked up in the sky, Rob, and there's this giant silver thing hanging in the air in daylight. And daylight sightings are pretty rare as a rule. This giant craft was just above my father's car. So I was jumping up and down. Dad, look, isn't this great? Dad, look, it's Star Trek. It's Star Trek. Dad, this is so cool. And my father looked at this thing like he had seen it a million times. No interest whatsoever. Couldn't care less. Okay, that's the A part of the story. I forgot that happened for 47 years. I forgot that sighting happened for 47 years. What happened then? My father died. My father died in 2017. He died in Florida. I got the phone call a few days later here in LA. I went to get a pastrami sandwich at a deli in my father's honor and to think about my father. So I go, and this is a true story. And if anyone has ever heard me tell that, I've told it probably 200 times. I went to a deli to get this sandwich, and a beam of energy from above hit me in the head really hard, like a knuckle punch with a fist. And through my eyes, projected in the air in front of my face, 8 inches in front of my face. This is in 2017. was the 1970 UFO sighting I had with my father from 47 years earlier. It played as a 3D color hologram home movie with audio. It played in the air. Now talk about having a paranormal experience.
That's amazing.
I've told this story, and it's a true story. So I watched it, and I saw it. And I go, oh my God, I remember that day. I remember that. And this time my dad, he still looked bored. I saw me. It wasn't a memory because I was in this little movie. I was in it. So my dad, this time, he looked down at me, he winked at me, and then he said, come on, let's go home. That's how it ended. So that's the little film ended. Now, this is 3 days after my father died. Then I hear in my ear, get a pen, get a pen, get a pen. You need a pen, get a pen. I wrote down in my hand, write a book about benevolent aliens. Then I wrote lead character's father knew about UFOs. And then I wrote ATC. My hand did. I did automatic writing. And then after a few minutes, ATC, I came up with After They Came as a book title. So the book was given unto me 3 days after my father died. I believe in my heart, my father gave it to me from heaven. Now we have to talk about who was my father. So after my father died, that's the part.
That's really interesting.
And that's the killer part. That's the part of the whole story. After my father died, I started writing this book. It took me a year to write the book, but then I researched my father. My father was a physicist for the U.S. Army for 45 years. He worked at a top secret military base called Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. After he died, I called my mother and I said, did Dad ever talk about UFOs, Mom? And she said, in the early 60s, they took my father down into the vaults at the Army base. They showed him something highly top secret. My father came home from work. My mother said he was really upset and shaking and sweating and nervous. And my mother said to my father, what's wrong? And my father said to my mother, I saw something above top secret today in the vault, and I could never tell you about it as long as I live. So my mother says my father was never the same. Now, I am reading, Rob, 2 books right now. This is called Fort Monmouth, the U.S. Army's House of Magic. This is where my dad worked for 45 years. Let me tell you what these guys invented. These guys invented radar, satellites, night vision, FM radios, walkie-talkies, air-to-ground aircraft controls, drones. They invented incredible things. That's where my dad worked. He couldn't talk about his work because it was top secret. Now, this book I'm reading called McCarthy, Monmouth, and the Deep State. In this book, it essentially says that where my dad worked, they worked on UFOs for Project Blue Book. Okay, so Rob, when I saw a UFO with my dad, right, and he looked at it like he was bored, why? He knew what it was. My dad knew what that thing was. So 47 years later, my father dies, and he sends me a movie from heaven. And what he's saying to me is, Danny, I couldn't tell you my whole life about that UFO or what I did for a living, but I'm dead now. Remember that UFO we saw in 1970? I knew what that thing was. I was involved with that thing. So that's the story behind After They Came. I just recorded it in audio. It's my book. I read the whole thing. It took me forever. And if people would be kind enough, go to Amazon, After They Came, Dan Harary. You can get it as a print book, an ebook, and now as an audio book. It just came out the other day.
That's amazing. And tell us a little bit about the story of After They Came. Isn't it about like if aliens come and they like kind of like want to take over the world or something, but they pick a certain guy? Like maybe you could be the representative.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, the story I just told was how the book was given to me. That's how it came to be. The story, it's a science fiction story inspired by true events with me and my dad. The storyline is in the near future, 2 benevolent aliens from the Pleiades, 2 7-foot-tall, beautiful male and female from the Pleiades come to Earth in the near future to save mankind and to solve our problems. Now, the lead character in this book is this schmucky guy named Jonathan Tuckerman who hates his life. It's his 70th birthday. Everything went wrong for this guy his whole life. He hates his life. So on his 70th birthday, he lives in LA. He decides to drown himself in the Pacific Ocean on his birthday to commit suicide. That's how the book starts on page 1. The lead character is drowning on page 1. So as he's drowning off the Pacific Ocean, as he's drowning, this huge craft comes underneath from the Pacific. And by the way, there's a Malibu UFO base. There's
a
UFO base off the coast of Malibu. If you go to the wowsignal.news, we did a big story about that last week. So in my book, the UFO comes up, beams this guy up, saves his life. It travels over LA. They go to Dodger Stadium. They present down at Dodger Stadium these beautiful male, female aliens with long blonde hair, and this schmucky guy who was drowning. When they get to Dodger Stadium, all the media are there, the firemen, the military, the policemen, microphones, cameras, all that's there. And the two aliens say, "People of Earth, Linda Winger, you're a Pleiadian? That's very cool. I'd love to talk to you. People of Earth, we're here. We love you. We love mankind. Don't be afraid. We've come to solve your problems, but we have a relationship with this guy. We just saved this guy's life. And we have a relationship with him. Bring him your problems, Earthlings, and we will work through him to solve everything." So then the aliens get in their ship. They leave. And now the schmucky guy who was drowning is the center of the world's attention, right? So all the cameras and microphones and the police and the military, and they go, "Who are you? What are you doing? Who are you? How do you know aliens?" He goes, "I have no idea what's happening right now. I have no clue." So the story after they came is a book. Yeah, there you go. After they came. So in the book, he meets the president. She gives him an office at the UN. He works with the aliens for years. They end the nuclear age. The aliens destroy all the nuclear weapons on the planet. They solve every disease. They cure every disease. They end famine. They provide clean water. They destroy all the guns. They destroy all the pollution. They reverse climate change. It's everything. It's a utopian story. And at the end of the first third of the book, he wins the Nobel Prize. He's the hero of Earth. He's a millionaire, reunited with his children, meets the woman and marries the woman of his dreams. And everything is great. Well, then along the way, other bad things start to happen. But he discovers that his late father researched UFOs for the Army. Now, who was that based on? Well, that was based on my father. And it turns out, and I don't want to give the plot away, but it turns out that this lead character's late father had something to do with extraterrestrial visitors to Earth. That's the twist. And I think perhaps that my dad knew something about aliens. So anyway, it's gotten a lot of attention. Nick Pope calls it a delightful tale of wonder and hope. A lot of people have said very lovely things. And the bottom line is I am working on a screenplay right now to pitch it as a movie to Hollywood. So that's where we stand.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, that's amazing. We talked a lot about the book and, aliens and stuff. I wanted to ask you about, because you've had a career in Hollywood as well. You worked with some of the biggest names in comedy and you worked for the Playboy Channel and stuff. Do you have any wild stories or interesting stories being in the industry? And you were also a stand-up comedian as well, right? So you've probably been to the Comedy Store in LA. I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan and Joey Diaz and Theo Vaughn, some of the comedians podcasters that kind of made it there, so I just wanted to ask you about that. It sounds so interesting.
Sure. So, my first book is called Flirting with Fame. It's behind I can never do this right. You see in the back there, it's called Flirting with Fame. It's on Amazon, Flirting with Fame. That's my Hollywood book. And the subtitle is A Hollywood Publicist Recalls 50 Years of Celebrity Close Encounters. I've been working with celebrities, Rob, since I'm 15 years old. In high school, I worked at a rock concert hall in Asbury Park, New Jersey. I worked with Bruce Springsteen before he was famous. I worked with Kiss and Fleetwood Mac before they were famous.
Wow.
So my life in show business began at age 15, very, very, very early. In Hollywood, I have hundreds of funny stories. When I met Meryl Streep, I was so nervous I called her by the wrong name. I met Sylvester. I met Sylvester Stallone at a urinal when we were peeing side by side. I met Jerry Springer at a urinal. Also.
What was that like? Me and Jerry Springer. Was he like?
I was in a men's room and I was peeing and he was about to pee and I look at him and I go, Jerry, right? And we're peeing together. And he looks at me, he goes, is that really the best you can do? And I go, I thought it was funny. So
someone in the chat, Joyful Jennifer, says she loves Fleetwood Mac. I do too. I'm such a big fan of Stevie Nicks. Like for a guy, you know what I mean? Like I just love, and I've always been into like witchcraft. I believe in God and stuff, but I've always just kind of been interested in it. And I knew that Stevie Nicks was kind of like the first white witch, or she said, that's what people said. They said like
that was her persona. Yeah. Well, when I worked with Fleetwood Mac, it was 1972 or 3. It's before Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham joined them. It was Mick Fleetwood, John McVie on bass, and Christine McVie was on keyboards. They had a guy, what's his name? They had Bob Welch. The singer was Bob Welch, who was very gifted, and he had a couple of hit songs. But then that guy committed suicide. Bob Welch committed suicide. So
wow.
when I worked with Fleetwood Mac, it was years before anyone ever heard of Stevie Nicks.
Wow, that's amazing. And wow, that's someone. What was I going to say? I was going back to and what about my friend Jason? One of my moderators, Jason, has a question. He wants to know and I'll put it up on the screen. He says, can indie filmmakers join the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's one of the groups. We have quite a few members. We have quite a few indie filmmakers, TV producers, and we have a lot of documentary people. But please go to hollywooddisclosurealliance.org and click the join button, and it'll give you the steps by which to become a member. But sure, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I could see both me and Jason joining because, I'm an independent podcaster, and Jason, he's one of my moderators. He's an independent filmmaker, and he would be great for your organization. He was trying to get into different film. I know, and he's worked in films too. So, he would.
No, absolutely.
He would
both of you, Rob. I mean, Rob, you should be a member too, definitely.
Yeah. That's.
You asked me about comedians. So I represented Jay Leno for 2 years. I was Jay Leno's publicist. So talk about comedians. He was the most famous one in America and I was his publicist for 2 years when he got the Tonight Show in the 80s. Nicest guy in the world, always super nice to me. I knew Jerry Seinfeld before he was famous. I represented Sid Caesar for years. Sid Caesar was a very, very famous comedian in the 50s and 60s. I worked with Milton Berle. I worked with Steve Allen. If you Google these names, they're all before your time, Rob, but these are icons of comedy.
I knew Leno. I knew of Leno. Leno was pretty big when I was young. In my 20s, he was. I think that's when he was at his like epitome. He was. He had taken over for Johnny Carson, right? He took over for Johnny Carson.
That's when I was his publicist. I would be backstage with Jay at the Tonight Show in his dressing room.
Wow.
Yeah. Jay inherited the show from Johnny Carson, but I came to LA in 1980. So it's 45 years. I've been in LA for 45 years. I came when I was 24, Rob. When I came here, I used to go to the Improv in West Hollywood. And in one night, ready for this? In one night, you would see all the following people before any of them were famous, okay? For like $5 at the door. Jay Leno, Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Lewis, Gilbert Gottfried, Jackie Mason, Arsenio Hall, Elaine Boozler, and I'm missing another 10 people. You'd see, and they all, like Bob Saget, right? They all that era, they all became famous. All of that era that I was 24. Man, I didn't have a car. I used to take a bus. When I first came to LA, I was so poor I didn't have a bus. I had $6. But I would go to the Improv and I would see Jerry Seinfeld and Jay Leno and Richard Lewis and Gilbert Gottfried and Arsenio and all these guys. They all became famous. And I said to myself when I was 24, I said, one day before I die, I'm going to do stand-up comedy on that stage. And that was 1980. I actually did stand-up comedy on that stage in 1998. I did 8 minutes, a stand-up comedy at the Improv. It was a sold-out crowd. It was the most nervous I ever was next to the day my son was born. I almost threw up. I was so nervous I almost threw up, but I did it. It was pretty funny too.
Wow, that's amazing. I'll see what other questions I have, and if you guys have any questions for Dan, put them in the chat, and we'll go. Well, yeah, and I was a little bit. Let me see here. Any other news on disclosure, or like any news from the conference that we might have not talked about, from the Contact in the Desert that we might have?
Okay, great question. There are many different points of view, Rob, about that topic. As we discussed earlier, my dear friend Steve Bassett thinks it's going to happen this year. He's convinced Donald Trump will be the disclosure president. It's going to happen any minute now. He's absolutely convinced. Danny Sheehan, who is a very, very prominent, very famous attorney in Washington, he's been working with Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds in Congress, in the Senate, to create a bill that will protect UAP whistleblowers from going to jail. Danny Sheehan says in the next 2 years, disclosure will happen in the next 2 years. So Bassett is tomorrow. Danny is 2 years from now. Spielberg's film Disclosure comes out next year. Well, that could be something. I mean, we don't know. I mean, if he has really compelling information in that film, people might rise up and go to Trump and the Congress and go, look at this, and it's time. When Oliver Stone in the 90s, Oliver Stone did the movie JFK, very, very, very famous movie, JFK, and he presented all the different theories about the JFK assassination. That movie triggered Congress to create a new act, the JFK Records Act, in the 90s. A movie, right? A movie worked through Congress to make the JFK Act. If Spielberg's Disclosure movie is a phenomenon, which probably it will be, that could maybe make Congress do some kind of we have to do disclosure now, Mr. President, you have to go and tell the world. That might really move the ball forward. Me personally, and Ron James from MUFON, and Ron Janix, who owns Contact in the Desert, the three of us think it's never going to happen through any government. No president, no prime minister, king, not the new pope, not Putin. We don't think disclosure is going to come from a world leader. And I really have been thinking about this a lot lately. Two things. We are disclosure. We, meaning Rob, you, me, all the people that are in your comments right now. We are disclosure by telling our friends and our colleagues and our relatives and our peers about our knowledge that we have and our experiences that we have. And through my group, the HDA, because some documentaries are starting to come out now, we are trying to tell the world, hey, this stuff is real. Extraterrestrials exist. They've been around forever. The government knows. The military knows. They will not tell us. We have to be disclosure. So I really feel strongly about that. Another theory I'm hearing a lot is from people like Avi Loeb and Richard Dolan and other people, is that Rob, this is great. The aliens themselves will be in charge of disclosure, because when they want to reveal, they could do it in 5 minutes from now. They could do it in 50 years from now. So a lot of people think Richard Dolan said this at Contact. It's in their hands, right? It's up to the extraterrestrials to reveal. And like in my book, they land at Dodger Stadium. But if that were to happen, or Times Square, or the White House lawn, or Big Ben, or any famous place, the Coliseum, the whole world will know in one day. If a huge craft lands anywhere on the planet, the whole world will know, like the movie Independence Day. We'll all know that is real.
I wanted to quote Chaim Eshed, the Israeli space minister, something like that. He said that in his book, like I think it was last year, the year before, he said that the U.S. and its friendly governments are working with aliens right now on Mars, and he said that the aliens wanted to tell us about disclosure, but they don't think we're ready. Have you heard of? I'm sure you've heard about this, right? The Chaim Eshed.
Yes, I have. I've heard the same thing come from Dr. Avi Loeb, who I know, the Harvard professor. But Rob,
Yeah.
you nailed it, brother. That's some very, very heavyweight thinkers are saying that, and there has to be some credibility to that. I think that it's up to the aliens themselves to present to the world.
Yeah, I do too. I agree. Wow. Well, this was amazing, Dan. Now, I was going to say, is there anything else you want to cover before we finish up today? And thank you. This was awesome.
Oh, thank you, man. Oh, yeah, we could talk about my paranormal life. That came out last year. My last book came out last year, My Paranormal Life. It's also on Amazon. That has, after my father died, he contacted me as a ghost in my bedroom 3 different times. One of the times he actually spoke to me.
Wow.
I had a poltergeist in my house in Beverly Hills 20 years ago. It turned out it was my dead grandfather. He had been dead for decades. He told me it was my grandfather. I've had weird experiences. I've had telepathy. My 4 UFO sightings are in that book. Weird things that have happened to me and people that I've been with. Incredible coincidences. That's my paranormal life. So those are true stories. And that's on Amazon. And after they came is my aliens, and benevolent aliens UFO book. So if anybody's interested in any of the things I just babbled about, check out HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. Check out my author website, danhararyauthor.com. My 5 books are there. And check out the wowsignal.news. There's a button, Rob. We just put a button up yesterday called subscribe. In fact, you should subscribe to it. It's a free subscription. Every week we have the latest news from around the world. We are in bed with MUFON. We are essentially blessed by MUFON. I'm talking to the Soul Foundation. I'm talking to Danny Sheehan's New Paradigm Institute. We have a lot of very cool media partners. I'd say a year from now, the Wow Signal is going to be the #1 ufology news website in the world. That's my goal. So those are the big 3. Thank you for having me on, Rob. It's always fun to talk to you.
Yeah, this was amazing. And tell how can people find you or anything else you'd like to promote? And thank you. This was awesome.
Sure. The best way to get me is Dan Harary Author. Dan Harary Author, all together. danhararyauthor.com. My bio is there. All my books are there. My fun pictures of me with Jerry Seinfeld and Mel Brooks and Sid Caesar and Milton Berle and Sylvester Stallone and Tom Hanks. I have greats. I have so many great Mickey Dolenz, Alice Cooper, Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees, Alice Cooper. I have really great photos. But my bio is there. My email is there. danhararyauthor.com is the way to reach me, I think.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. And guys, I'll be live again at 7 p.m. Eastern. So yes, I'll see you guys then. And I'm going to join the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance now. I'll join, and then I'll send you my bio and photo, and that'd be great. And
that's all you got to do. Yeah, and your friend too. Tell your friend too, Jason. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, very cool. All right, brother. Thanks, man.
All right. Have a good night. All right,
you too, brother. Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.